A-Team, Adam Wexler over there, Adam Clanton right here, Dan Matthews, our producers. We take you up until 6 o'clock tonight, and as promised, joined right now by former NFL quarterback, and of course he now does work with Westwood One. Actually was listening to him on my hour and 10-minute drive home the other day in the icy conditions of Houston. But it allowed me to listen to Ryan Leaf and the rest of the crew on that first of the remaining 2 wildcard games on Monday. Ryan, welcome into the program. Appreciate you taking the time. And I know that it's probably sexier to talk about Buffalo and Kansas City with what their quarterbacks have done. But I think we might have the sneaky best game of the weekend on our hands here in Baltimore, just for, if no other reason, than the guy that plays the position you played that's just blowing everybody away right now might have another chapter to write in C.J. Stroud.
Well, I would agree. I mean, what he's been able to do this rookie year has just been outstanding. And I expect him to show up like he's, been around, like he's been playing all year long. My biggest fear, of course, and it just because it rears its ugly head, is the cold. Last time they really, going against the defense, last time they really did this at the Jets, got beat down. CJ went out with the injury, but he wasn't faring very well before the injury happened. Stuff like that. So that would be my only fear, And you see some of this bounce back stuff when this is divisional playoff football, right? I think last year you saw the Giants go into Minnesota and you went, whoa, Giants have a chance to go to Philly. Maybe give them a shot. No. So this is a big test for the young players, the rookies, in particular C.J. Stroud, but I don't have to worry about him stepping up and doing the thing that he's been doing all year long. It's going to be fun to see him in person. He was my number 1 guy on my board a year ago in the draft. So happy to see the Houston Texans not listen to anything else, outside noise, and make sure they got their guy at number 2.
Well, why don't we go back to the start as you bring it up? Why was C.J. Stroud number 1 on your board?
Well, just because of his accuracy down the field for me. I don't care how great the player is you're throwing to, you still have to throw it to him. And if you put it in the best possible place, you're going to make them good. You're going to make you good. I just thought he was the most well-rounded quarterback. I thought he was the most accurate. I thought that there was a leadership quality to him that was just different. Not that Bryce Young didn't have that, but for me, the size difference was a huge disparity. So much so that you were trying to say that they were even. Let's go with the one that the championship the year before. All those things. He by far was the guy that did it for me. And then it just pissed me off when somebody leaked a test score, and that was enough for people to start running for the hills. When you have an alarming amount of film, you could just have at your fingertips, and you go, no, that guy's. Why are you talking about this nonsense about some kind of test that a guy took that doesn't even revolve around playing football? I'm really proud of him, and I'm really happy for him to see that he's been able to be this good, play this well, and enjoy the fruits of that labor. And then also for the city of Houston, just to go through all that nonsense with Deshaun Watson when you thought you had a franchise quarterback, to turn around and find another who is just, he's a guy that takes a ton of responsibility, has a ton of character and integrity. It's the best of both worlds, and I'm excited to see him in person and tell him that.
Yeah, kind of the stuff you're talking about. We got Ryan Leaf here with us. We on the radio call nationally for the game this weekend, Baltimore and Houston, recognizing all these things as you go through progression, studying film with your OC and your QBs and everything offensively. All these things are why we hear from inside the organization, from Bobby Slowick, from CJ, and everybody else. He's so far advanced. He's doing things you shouldn't be doing yet. He's doing things veterans 5 and 7 years down the road are just getting to. What is that maybe area of his game beyond maybe some of the physical attributes, which are obviously great? Is that the part of it that maybe sets him apart to be doing it now already?
Well, I also think that these players are so much more well-prepared coming into the league. I think there's an understanding of how to prepare your body to do the things that is necessary. And so that's why I think maybe, and don't get me wrong, everybody has the opportunity to do this. Everybody does. Brock Purdy did. Brock Purdy came into the league just as focused and ready to go whenever that opportunity came. C.J. Stroud was just thrust into it a little bit sooner just because of being drafted so high. But I do think these players are much more prepared to come into the league. They understand if they're willing to do the things that can make them better as fast as possible. And that means leaving your ego at the door. The money, once you get it paid, you don't look at it again until you're done with your first contract. You just go and do the work and you humble yourself. And hey, if the situation at the draft didn't humble CJ Stroud and put him on a path to be this dominant, I don't know what could have. I think he just took exactly what was right for the taking there, and it just made it into something incredibly special.
We're talking to Ryan Leaf here on Sports Talk 790, and I think, it's kind of a Texas two-step when you talk about this Houston franchise's turnaround, because you don't get C.J. Stroud without D'Amico Ryans, and I don't think you get, D'Amico Ryans without, ironically, doing what you were talking about earlier, the organization not listening to the outside noise. Kind of an easy decision to make when the guy was such a beloved player here in town. But if he can't coach, it doesn't matter. The feel-good story is the honeymoon's going to end right away. What do you see, especially as a guy who played in a league at the same time as D'Amico, as the biggest reason why he is able to kind of spearhead this turnaround so quickly?
Well, you just have to look at where he was the defensive coordinator at before and all the egos he had to juggle while he was in San Francisco. I think he walked in with a relationship with the organization, which I think is huge, and then the players in that locker room. You're seeing it more and more happen, where owners are taking chances on former players. Not that former players haven't been coaches before, but all of a sudden the staffs are starting to be littered with former players. There's something about being able to relate to your coach while you're in that locker room. It just is. We've seen guys that I think make up the old guard of what coaches are in the NFL, and I think that may be going by the wayside, and D'Amico Ryans is a perfect example of that. I mean, he has got guys believing, and when you win, hey, things change. You lose the first two games of the season. I mean, you're 0-2, and everybody's going, okay, well, the quarterback played decent, so let's shape this up. And then they go to the Jags and dominate. That for me was the difference maker. That was the catalyst that said, okay, we can do this. And then the Steelers come to town, and you're like, and you just destroy them, and you're just, okay, yeah, this is who we are. And then what he's been able to do with the defense. I think the defense is young. I think a lot of people were looking at Jalen Petrie and Derek Stingley Jr. as guys that have a lot of talent, but maybe haven't lived up to it necessarily. And I think they both had incredibly good seasons this year. And then they just get after the quarterback. Will Anderson was a great pick. The decision to move up there at number 3 and grab him, I think is a huge deal. He was one of the best edge rushers there are in the draft, and he's really come along over the last few games, just really upped that up to get to 7 sacks by the time the end of the years happened, and how he played the other day. So this team is ripe for an opportunity. I like them with the Packers going up against both the 1 seeds. I wouldn't rule it out at all that they win outright. Certainly the 9.5 points that I've continuously seen out there, I think is maybe a bit high.
We had that very discussion right out of the gate. Wondered if I think we all felt it was too high, and some suggested it was disrespectful. I wonder if that leaks into a locker room. Stuff like that usually does. But at this point in time, you have confidence no matter what, because you've played and now won that first playoff game. We haven't talked at all about the other side and Lamar Jackson. And unfortunately, I think the media for sure, but maybe others will start to look at him a little bit like Dallas and Dak, and everything that happened to the Cowboys against the Packers wasn't all Dak's fault, clearly, but they've played a lot of playoff games with him, and they've lost a lot of playoff games with him. And Lamar Jackson is in a similar boat on the way there. I don't think he's played badly in all 4 of his previous playoff games, but he certainly has not been on the winning side but once. Do you think that pressure is on his shoulders, on the Ravens' shoulders, even as heavy favorites and a 1 seed?
I don't. You can't deny that. I mean, that's what this is. You can't deny it. But I've been around Lamar this week, and dude's pretty light. I mean, the best way to talk about him right now is he's having a blast playing football. Over the last couple of years, the contract conversation, the injuries, it looked like he was carrying an anchor with him. Whatever was on his back and on his shoulders. You add Todd Monken into the deal. You add a couple skill position players and Zay and Odell Beckham and the way Isaiah Likely stepped up when Mark Andrews went down. I mean, he's enjoying every single minute of it. And it's easy to do that when you got a play caller doing what he's doing and a defense that is unbelievable, right? The best pass rushing defense in all of football. And they get after the quarterback, they get sacks, they got linebackers that are flying around and making plays. I mean, they made who at the time I thought was Brock Purdy was probably the front runner for the MVP. They made him look average. And Brock Purdy's not average. He is an elite quarterback in this league, and they made him look like that on that Sunday night football game. So, Houston's got everything in front of them. My biggest thing in this is that this game is down to the very wire, or it's a blowout. There's no in between. There's not a Houston hangs in there and gets beat by 6 or something like that. It's a last-second field goal by one of these teams to win, or the Ravens absolutely, boat race them like they did against Detroit and Seattle and San Francisco. That's my only fear for the Houston Texans in this one.
We're talking to Ryan Leaf here on Sports Talk 790. Right before we let you go, and I'll kind of put you on the spot, but just looking forward and being a guy that played quarterback in the NFL, if you're the Texans and you've had undoubtedly a successful season regardless of what happens this weekend and potentially beyond, what's the number one thing you are looking to do to add to this team for 2024 and take the next step with DeMeco Ryans and C.J. Stroud?
Well, I think that you figure out who you want at running back, right? I mean, Dameon Pierce was such a force the year before. I know there's been some injuries and things like that, but he really hasn't been the focal point. And then I think you shore up the offensive line, which I thought was pretty strong at the beginning of the year. It's just been so up and down. And then I think you go find an elite tight end in the draft. You look around the league at the likes of Dalton Kincaid and Laporta and Musgrave, and you go find one of the. Dalton Schultz has been a welcome, right? 5 touchdowns this season, but I still think you need to go out and find an elite one, a guy that can catch 100 balls for C.J. Stroud. I think that's what brings and takes him just to the next level, if that's even possible. Go find that guy. I think Nico Collins has stepped up and shown everybody that he can be a wide receiver one. Tank Dell proved he is in the mix. He's had so many injuries out on the perimeter that it's made it very difficult for him to, lock into one guy week in and week out. I think that's where you go. You go find an elite tight end and shore up that offensive line.
I think it's an easy question. I'll let you go with. Are you at all fired up to be on the call for this game?
I am. I'm really fired up. I was in Buffalo last week, and I was fired up for that. If you'd have told me 10 years ago that I was going to be calling NFL playoff games, I would have told you you're absolutely crazy. That would never happen in my lifetime after everything that I'd gone through and everything like that. So, yeah, every single opportunity like this, I just pinch myself and go, I cannot believe what this life continues to give me. And I'll work my tail off for it. I'm excited for it. I'm prepared. I'm ready to go. Come on. If I called up the commissioner and I wasn't working the game and said, hey, commish, can I get a sideline pass so I can watch these 2 unbelievable quarterbacks play at an elite level from the sideline? He'd go, no, Ryan, you can't. But guess what? I am. I'm excited.
By the way,
That's
Ryan,
awesome.
you're good at it, and we're not blowing smoke. I was listening. You're good at what you do. You've done a very good job.
Well, I appreciate it. I put a lot of time and effort into it. And I tell you what, this is the national broadcast. This is Westwood One. They have every NFL game. Like these talent observers and stuff who were putting people on the air. I'm sure Howie Deneroff, who is a god to me, didn't just go, you know what? I think Ryan needs a break. Let's just throw him out there. You better be good at what you do, especially when you carry the baggage like I do, or you're not going to be out there. So I'm going to work my tail off so I don't make a fool of anybody.
Love it. Really appreciate your time. Looking forward to it. And obviously we, like everybody here in Houston and Baltimore, looking forward to the game itself. Hope to catch up with you again real soon, and appreciate your time.
You bet. I'll be down there in the middle of March doing some work with the Menninger Clinic, giving back to the community of Houston. They've been so great to me in that facility. So maybe we can get together again then.
Sounds great.
We would love that. Absolutely. Ryan Leaf here on Sports Talk 790. He'll be on the call, as you heard, for this weekend's game. Opener, by the way, between the Ravens and your Texans. We will take a quick timeout. We'll come right back.